If you've been paying attention at all, you've probably seen that a lot of people are switching over to Notion for their note taking, organization, and if you're into filmmaking or content creation, then for the scripting, ideas, video planning, etc. So I figured because so many people were switching, there must be something amazing about it. So I decided to try it out. First of all, there's a few things that I really like about Notion and a few that I don't like so much. So we're going to talk about all those. But first, I want to give you a really quick rundown of how Notion actually works. So when you first sign up and you open Notion for the first time, you'll find a blank page like this. You have the option to do a title. You probably should title your page, but you can do a title, you can do an icon, a banner. You can kind of customize it if you feel so inclined. But then below, you can start adding different sorts of things. So you can do the basic things from obviously simple text, bullet point lists, to do checkboxes, numbering, toggle lists, all the way to setting up calendars, databases, tables, and even linking other pages within a page, which we'll go over later because I use that a lot. There's a lot of different customization that you can do. Now, in addition to creating all your notes manually, starting from scratch, you can download templates that others have created that probably are doing the same thing or similar that you're doing. There's tons of YouTube videos that you can watch similar to this one on how people do a different workflow. Different things work for different people, so you can try out something for yourself. If you don't like it, you can switch, or you can do what I did and just kind of create your own. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later too. And then over on the left side of the page is where you have all your navigation, you have your settings, all those sorts of things. So that's the basics on how Notion actually works. Now, there's a lot of pros and cons here, so I want to talk about that first before I actually show you my workflow, starting with some of the pros. First of all, I love that it's a cloud-based software, so I don't have to worry about saving, losing anything. Everything syncs automatically, and it's always there, always up to date. Second, it's compatible with nearly every device that's out there. I have an app on my phone, app on the iPad. You can do it in the browser on your laptop, and they all function almost identically. So you're very familiar with the UI, the UX on each of these different devices. It all seamlessly integrates and looks very, very similar across all devices. The last thing that I really like is it has a huge community now. Just like I said, you've seen tons of people switching over to Notion. So if you have a question about something or you want to download a template like I mentioned, there's tons of people and resources out there willing to help you and willing to give you some different resources to download, try out, etc. So now for some of the cons, and I don't really hear a ton of people talking about some of these, but I do think they're important to talk about. The first one is that it's pretty rigid in its structure. Sure, you can add tons of different sorts of things onto individual pages, but the way that those pages are organized is pretty limited in what they offer to you. So it's pretty easy to create different columns and you can put different things underneath those columns, but the spacing, the sizing of everything, it's pretty limited in the fact that you can't customize this a whole lot. You'll notice almost every page basically looks the same. It just doesn't have a ton of different customization options other than the different note blocks that you can put in there. Second of all, similarly to that, along the customization route, is the different formatting options. So when you go to format some text, obviously just like any other text editor, you have the bold, underline, italicize, strike through, all that basic stuff. But when it comes to colors and backgrounds, you have basically a list that they give you, just a list of options that you get to pick from. You can't customize it, at least that I've been able to find. If I'm just missing something and you guys know how to do that, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to be able to know how to do that. Because right now it just gives you like a very basic list of colors and colored backgrounds, and I don't really like how those look on my notes. The third thing I would say on the cons list is that the UI just isn't very intuitive, I guess would be the best way to put it. Sometimes I get lost between the different pages and whatnot. Now, I've been using it for about 6 months. I'm not a power user by any means. I might log in like a couple times a day at most. I could just be missing something, and I'm sure those people out there that use this all the time are much more fluent in how everything works, but sometimes I get lost between like what page I'm in. And like I mentioned earlier, you can put a page within a page within a page. So then it's just like, okay, I kind of forget where I'm at, and it's not super intuitive on how to get back to where you were. Maybe that's just my shortcomings, but for me, it's just not the cleanest, and it's not the most intuitive software that I've ever used. And that covers pretty much all the cons. You can see there's nothing in there that's deal breaking at all. I still use the software, the platform. I really enjoy it. There's just some of those things that I think could be a little bit better, but I mean, I'm just nitpicking here. Now I need to give credit where credit is due because I didn't come up with a lot of this stuff on my own. I actually based nearly everything that I'm about to show you off of Nicholas Crystal's video and his organization. So check out that video. So yeah, anyway, let's get into it. So really what it boils down to is I have a few different pages and they're all linked together. The first one that you see right here, it's really just a cover page. I have kind of notes and quotes and things that I don't want to forget. Just tips on like how to make a better video, how to edit, you know, those sorts of things that I just want to kind of keep on reminding myself of as I'm going through the video process, the content creation, the scripting, all that sorts of stuff. But really, so on here, I also have links to 2 other pages. And this is really kind of where my Notion organization actually happens, is on these 2 other pages. So one of them is called ideas and one of them is called videos. So we'll start with the ideas page. And this one is very simple. It's just a few different columns. Each of those columns is a niche that I try to make my videos of, whether it be a tech video, a filmmaking or YouTube type video, or I just have a miscellaneous column for if I decide to step outside the box and do something different. But each of these items underneath all these is a toggle list. And what Notion calls a toggle list is something that you can click to open and expand it and then put different notes underneath it. You can minimize it so it all shrinks back up, but that information is not lost. So I really like to use these on this ideas page because if I come up with something, I can just, you know, throw it in there really fast, come back to it later, add some context if I feel so inclined. I don't really feel too rigid about this page. It's mostly just a brain dump for me for whenever I'm coming up with ideas. And like I said earlier, the great thing about Notion is that you have an app, or I have an app on my iPhone, because most of the time that I'm coming up with ideas, I'm out on the go, I'm out, you know, doing something, and I just really quickly want to open up my phone, get to this page, drop it in there, and then come back later and actually add some context, some descriptions of what I was actually thinking at the time, if I remember. If not, I just put it in there, come up with it all later. Below all these columns, I then have a completed section. So all you have to do, Notion's very good about dragging and dropping. So all I do then is once I make the video, publish it, I don't want it in my kind of to-do list, ideas list anymore. So I just drag it down to the completed and really never come back to it. I could probably just delete them, but I figured, you know, it's just as easy to drag and drop them to a completed list. So I just do that just in case I would ever want to come back to anything for any reason. So that's really the extent of the ideas page. And then once I'm ready to actually make a video, or at least start scripting it or do some research or anything like that, that I want to start making actual notes, then I switch over to the videos page. And just like MTV Cribs from back in the day, now this is where the magic really happens. So on the videos page, it's really just one big table, but I have different columns and I'll go through those very, very quickly. And then I'll show you kind of how I use this table to help me develop my videos. So the first column is just the video number. You can use any sort of numbering sequence that you want. I just use the year, month, and then a dash, and then the number of video for that month. Then the next column is the description or the title of the video. Very self-explanatory. The next column is the type, whether it be a long form or short form. Then after that is the niche of it. So this is a selection column where I can select either one or multiple of these different tags that I have created. And it basically just helps filter down the road. I'll show you this later, but you can filter by the different selections that you have in each column and view it in different sorts of ways. So then after the niche column, I have the status of it. You know, am I scripting it? Am I still researching it? Am I editing? Is it ready for publish? Is it published? If it is published, then I put the published date in the next column, the URL, just so I have it documented. I can always come back to it later. And that's the extent of this table. But just like I said earlier, Notion is very good about putting data within a page, if that makes any sort of sense. So each row within this table represents a video that I've made. So I'll just go ahead and show you by creating a new one exactly the way that I go through this. So if I click new, you can see a box pops up It gives me the options to fill out all the different columns on the page, but these different form fields that ultimately fill out the columns that we just went through. And then down below that, you have different options for different templates. So I have created a template for myself for every time I create a new video. I just populate this template, and you can see when I click this, everything below it populates as well. And what you'll notice is that on this template, or within this template, there's two different pages that pop up. But before those two pages, I have just a couple little toggle lists, one for title ideas, one for thumbnail ideas. I can just start workshopping and, throw down 5-10 different title ideas, 5-10 different thumbnail ideas, come back to it later, see what's gonna work out for me the best. So then I can, throw in a whole bunch of them, come back later, figure out exactly where I wanna take this video. But below that, I have the two pages, one of them called script, one of them called research and planning, and we'll come back to these in a second. Below those two pages, I have yet another table. So this is, like I said, a table within a table that's within a page, right? So this table is sometimes what I use to organize my shots. So this is a shot list table. If I'm doing something that's, a little bit more intensive, a lot of different B-roll, a lot of different storytelling aspects that I'm trying to get better at, then I'll use this shot list table to help me organize all that. So the first column on here is what chapter is it? Is it the intro? Is it towards the end and the conclusion? Is it somewhere within the middle of the video? I'll create different chapter titles depending on the video and label it there so I know exactly where in the video I'm intending to put this. I have the description of it, which is exactly as it sounds. Then the next column is the type of shot, whether it be a filmed shot, A-roll, B-roll, screen capture, animation, photo, anything along those lines, just so I can remember exactly what I'm trying to get at here. The next column is FPS. So if I have an idea for a slow motion shot or something like that, I can just kind of keep it organized, know exactly what I'm getting into, try to remember to flip the camera settings. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. But yeah, I can use this to, to plan out my slow-mo, stuff like that. And then after that, just check the box when it's complete. So then I can eventually later filter for all the things that are not complete so I know exactly what I have to get to. And that's the shot list table. I don't use it all the time, but like I said, for some of the videos that are more storytelling intensive, those sorts of things, I'll try to use this, stay organized, and help me just progress through the video in a streamlined fashion. But going back to the two pages before, they're pretty basic. I mean, there's nothing a whole lot to it, but I'm going to start with the research and planning page. So this is one where if I need a lot of different data sets or information that I need to try to remember for a video, I'll do all my research. I'll just throw articles in here, photos, videos, any sort of resource or data that I want to reference in my video. I'll throw that in here. I can come back to it later while I'm writing the script. I can jump back over to that one, grab the information over, put it in the script, and I just kind of use that as another brain dump, put all that information out there, and then I can organize it later. The script page is where I actually go in and usually write a script out. I don't always stick to it, but I make sure that I want to get my thoughts out there on how I want to structure the video. I have a couple different reminders at the top of this, just, things to keep in mind. The arc of storytelling, just to, keep that in the back of my head, like, hey, videos need storytelling. So try to keep that in your mind and then write the script out below it. I just try to give myself a starting point using this template to then, change, update, progress, evolve everything as I go on a video by video basis. And that's it, right? So the cool thing about Notion, like I said, you have a page within a page, a table on that page, a table within that one. You have a template that just populates automatically. And I can't do this with any other note-taking app, at least that I've found. So for work, for my 9 to 5, I use OneNote all the time because we use Office 365 for work and all that. And it comes with OneNote, and we use OneNote like all the time. And if I wanted to use OneNote for something like this, I would have to have a notebook and then a sheet for every video, different pages within that, and nothing really links together. So I really like that in Notion, I can just click on a table. Each row within that table has all this information embedded within it, And I don't have to have like tons of different pages. I mean, I guess there are tons of different pages, but it's very organized, which is, I guess, why a lot of people are switching over to Notion, because it is very organized. Even though one of those cons that I talked about was sometimes it's a little bit hard to navigate, it's because there's a page within a page within a table within a page, all that sort of thing. But it's great because it helps keep things concise, keep things organized. And just the navigation is where sometimes I struggle, but I end up figuring it out. And I really like how everything is just so compact and tidy and organized. Is the best way to say it, I guess. And another great reason that I'm going to stick with Notion is that everything that we just looked at is completely free. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I have a link for Notion Plus, but I don't think anybody really needs that unless you need a ton of different collaboration with a lot of different users, because that's one of the things that the Notion Plus subscription can get you, is it opens up a lot of different users and all sorts of those things that the free version is really just for an individual. Ultimately, that's Notion, right? So this is one way that you can use it. I know people use it for tons of different things. I personally don't really take notes on everything all the time, other than something that I'm trying to stay organized like this. So this is what I use it for. I'm going to try to, if I can figure out how to get you guys my template, I'll throw that in the description below, and you can feel free to download it. But if not, I mean, you can just do what I did and just creating this by scratch. Just following along with Nicholas Crystal's video, it wasn't really a big deal. It took me maybe 10 minutes to kind of get everything situated and organized. So once it's all set up, you just, you keep plugging through. Over time, you kind of figure out your own workflow, and then you just get used to it, and it works. It ends up working. This one works for me. And I've said it a couple times, but I'll say it again. One of the really cool things about Notion is that you can use it on your phone as an app, whether it be an iPhone app or an Android app. And speaking of apps, I have an entire video talking about which Google apps I still use on my iPhone. So feel free to check that video out. I'll leave it here for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.